For many years, the mainstay of a teacher's toolbox was the textbook. Those who are old enough now to be educators can remember the days when we had textbooks for every class. Lessons often entailed reading and answering chapter questions. But textbooks have fallen out of favor in some schools now. Despite the large stock of textbooks we still have in our storerooms, our students rarely consult these heavy tomes. Many teachers today, particularly those in inquiry-based programs such as the International Baccalaureate, much prefer to create their own materials or have students find appropriate resources on their own. Although our students do have information-seeking skills, they're not always the best at finding materials that are appropriate for their reading level. Most students benefit from the guidance of teachers, at least in the initial phase of information gathering. When we put together the easy availability of information with the foundational role textbooks have historically played in classrooms, we see the need for redefinition of the textbook. We need to use technology in a way that will redefine the textbook. Enter iBooks. Most people think that making such a complex book must itself be terribly complex, but the most difficult part of creating an iBook is the planning. iBook's author puts creating an interactive multi-touch iBook within the hands of the average computer user. iBooks are a tool that have the power to assist in redefining what happens in the classroom with textbooks. Mr. Matt Evans found that out when he gave his PE classes iBooks as part of his unit on fitness. I worked with Mr. Evans to create the iBook. We originally did not plan to redefine reading in his PE class, but after assessing his learners, looking at the MYP Physical Education and Health Criterion, a multi-touch iBook seemed like a wise choice. Let's look at the textbook we created together. It had 3 chapters, each with its own chapter objectives, which the interactive elements of the book addressed. I used public domain images available on pixabay.com for all of the still images. Video images were embedded YouTube videos. From within the book, students could click and access information appropriate for their reading levels about how much physical activity and sleep children their age need. They also had tasks that required them to demonstrate recall and understanding of the information covered in the book. These tasks were both verbal and pictorial. The outcomes of these tasks were sent automatically to Mr. Evans. Here are 2 samples of student work. These students were asked to draw pictures to represent at least 3 of the components of physical fitness. They were told to label their pictures and then share them with the teacher through the app. Chapter 2 was about training zones. One aspect of reading that was different with the iBook was that students now had the ability to mark up their text in a new way. Students could highlight and underline as well as make notes. And while all of these things are possible in traditional print text, what is not possible is the search feature. In the redefined book, students can search for words throughout the book. They can also look up definitions and translate from within the book. A survey of the students who used the iBook in PE class shows that only 10% looked up a word, but this might be attributed to the fact that neither Mr. Evans nor I focused on the ability of the iBook. It's possible that if we pointed out the translation feature of iBooks, more students might use it. Chapter 3 was about finding your heart rate. One of the most impressive abilities of iBooks is its capacity to link to apps. It's possible to launch any native iOS app using a Bookry widget in the book. In this example, the app Cardio is launched directly from the book. Cardio is an app that measures heart rate by using the iPad's camera to detect microflashes of the face. As more and more iPad apps are developed that take advantage of the mobility, the camera, and the sound capabilities of the iPad, it's reasonable to assume that more of these abilities will be able to be put into books on the iPad. So now that students have worked through their short iBook, what have I learned about using iBooks to redefine reading in the PE classroom? The students themselves have some very positive feedback as shown by their responses to a survey. The responses indicated that half of them would like to use a teacher-created iBook for learning again. Only 21% of them use the dictionary or translation feature. The project was not without glitches. I didn't upload the book to Apple's iBooks website because there are some things I want to iron out before making the book public. There are copyright issues I want to investigate more fully, and I need to change some widgets so that all responses from anyone who does the widget do not automatically go to Mr. Evans. Because we didn't use the iBookstore, we had some problems distributing the book. These might have been less if we had an MDM and if we had better Wi-Fi in the athletic complex where the students downloaded the book. As it was, simply downloading the book became a source of some serious frustration. Perhaps it might have been the most frustrating aspect of the whole project. This is reflected in student comments. Many of the students complained of challenges with widgets. These were generally tied to third-party widgets from Bookry.com. When I tested the widgets, I had no problems myself, but when I went into the classroom to observe, it was clear that the students were not using them correctly. Although I do think I saw some legitimate technology issues, they were few and far between. I believe many of the challenges were user error. We did not teach the students how to use the widgets, and 6th graders are prone to skipping directions. For the next iBook, Mr. Evans and I will write about nutrition. We'll do a better job distributing the download over different times and in different locations, rather than taxing our limited bandwidth in our PE building. I believe that our students will have an easier time with a revised plan like this. I'll also point out some of the features that were overlooked by the students. I'll build in a question or two that requires students to use dictionary feature for either a definition or a translation. I'll also create an activity that requires them to search for multiple uses of the same word in the text. Finally, I'll expand the reading process to make it more social, though this is still a work in progress and I'm not sure how I'm going to do it. In the long run, I look forward to more widgets being available for iBooks. Interactive books allow for us to create new tasks that were previously inconceivable before the computer. As our students transition from a world where paper and pencil were the sole means of reading and writing, to a world where our definition of literacy has greatly expanded and reading is redefined, schools must keep up. All too often, educators fall behind as we hold on to the past. When we redefine reading at school, we equip our students with knowledge and skills to help them move forward to a world filled with wonders we've not yet imagined.